Okay.
Do I hold that or do you hold
No,
that?
I'm holding it.
Okay. Well, do I try to ladies and gentlemen, the people outside listening or not listening or not aware or getting ready for their Last night I sort of started thinking, well, I should write a few notes so that I could remember what I wanted to say. And unfortunately, as I started writing a few notes, I started writing a story. When I got up to chapter 2, I realised it was getting too long, and then when volume 3 came along, I realised that I was really past my my date. But I will try to go as fast as I can, and if then somebody keeps on waving, telling me to hurry up or something like that, wind up, then I will. But I do want to say thank you very much for all coming here today, and thank you very much particularly to Lyndall and Steen. When I asked where might a wake be held for Ron, Steen said at my place. And it was just so easy, and we were wondering about the Springwood Bowling Club or the Rex Hotel or whatever. And this is so much more convenient and so much more pleasant, and so glad you're here. So, we start. Friends, mountains people, countrymen. I come to praise Ron, not to bury him. Was it the good that lies? The evil that men do lives on, but the good is oft interred in their bones. Not the case with Ron. Methinks he leaves an impressive legacy.
He does.
Starting in the late 1940s, our family came to Warramoo most weekends. We caught the fish or the chips up from Central Railway. The fish left at 12:27. The chips at 12:27. The fish at 1:27. And the fish and chips were trains. Yes. Saturday PM, and we'll be here at 9 o'clock tonight. But the fish was actually, I think the driver was someone named Herring and the guard was someone named Brim or something like that. Now, I thought this was all mountains folklore that you would all know.
They're still called the fish and chips.
Okay, the fish actually had the word "the fish" written on the carriages, on the side of the third and fifth carriages or something like that. And it was a steam train, and it took an hour and a half to come from Sydney to Warramoo. Our family used to have goggles so we look out the window to stop the soot from coming through. And of course, when the train got to Valley Heights, which was after Warramoo, it used to put on another engine for the long haul up the mountains. And this was quite a, virtually every Saturday. Ron and I, and Noreen as well. Noreen, by the way, has gone home. She just cannot stand wakes. It's too much for her, and I apologise to those who didn't get a chance to speak with her. Do you remember those eau de cologne bottles? Mum used to always put her, that was her favourite perfume, and it was very, very narrow opening, so the perfume wouldn't come out. And we used to put orange cordial in these things. And I only reason I mentioned this, well, a couple of reasons. One, you can just see the amount of detail, the effort that went into doing this. Yes. It probably took an hour or so to do it. It would take me 10 minutes to empty it, but Ron would still have plenty in his by the time he got to Warramoo, which just goes to show, I think, how controlled he was. Fastidious, very good, yes. Dad was building a house up there at Warramoo. That was going to be his way to fortune. He'd given up by this time making the fortune from the winning it from the bookmakers. So he built a house at Warramoo, and unfortunately that house was only badly damaged in the bushfire of 1952. And of course it finished up costing a lot of money to finish it. Eventually it didn't sell because the RTA, or the Department of Main Roads, took most of the land anyway. And the little weekend we had was destroyed as well. But what I want to say is Ron was very determined in everything he did, and I'm sure you see this in the Ron that you knew all these years later.
Yes, always.
Dad used to want to work on the house there for every daylight hour he possibly could, but Ron wanted to get home and listen to something on the radio at 7:30. So Ron insisted that the whole family leave Warramoo that much earlier so that we could get home in time for his radio show. Yeah.
Probably no reception there.
Showing Dad was very much a keen racing man. Dad took Ron to the races back in 1951, and by the time the 7th race came along, Dad was broke and wanted to go home. He had enough of the tram. But Ronnie said, no, you said I could have a bet. Oh, no, come on, let's go home. No, you said I could have a bet. All right then. I'll put my 5 shillings on Prelate. Oh, you're not going to back Prelate? Written by Keith Nuttall. He's not going to win. Back something written by George Moore or Neville Selwood. Prelate led all the way, won 7-1, so he won £1.15 for the effort. And he followed up the following week winning the Doncaster. Ron had 2 shillings each way on the Doncaster. And just out of interest, I was checking this last night, the horse that came second was Windmill. It wasn't Windmill-y, it was just Windmill. But there's just a little touch in there, it just sort of struck me as something that was good. Now, as far as I know, Ron has never had another bet in his life. Now, at school, he might have been put in $1 or so on a raffle for the Melbourne Cup or something, but as far as I know, so I think Ron can go down in history as possibly the only person ever to win at racing. With that £1.15, he bought a box brownie camera. He took photo after photo of a photo. Every photograph was numbered. Ron's photo gallery or something or other, number 1. Here's a picture of Harry and Nornie helping build the house, 15th of January 1951, 10 a.m, looking west. Everything was catalogued this way. Every photo was catalogued this way. And then he created another set of photos, which was To Fortune, which was the amount of money Dad was going to make by building this house and selling it on the open market, like the true capitalist he never was. Ron went to Sydney High from 1951 to 1955. That was a wind up, was it?
I was the other side of the fence. It's the girls' school.
Oh, okay, yes. You can sing Men of Harlech later.
But we didn't know we were there.
No,
we weren't allowed to talk to each other.
No, there was a fence, there's a wire fence between the two.
I only found out.
It's a good job to catch you away, doesn't it?
I know. I was disaster.
I joined him at Sydney High in 1955. My years were 55 to 59. Remember that first day I got into the school bus with him, and I realised that my big brother, whom I looked up to so much, was the source of some derision from the other boys on the bus. They called him Ollie, as in Oliver Goldsmith, and he became Big Ol, and I became Little Ol. Ron was not physically bullied as far as I know, but he wouldn't tell anybody anyway. But he is not one of the boys at school and probably picked on a bit. I'm very confident he never stepped onto a rugby field at High, though I don't know how he got out of it. He probably just refused.
Probably joined the choir.
Yeah. They did choir, didn't on Wednesday afternoon. He was very creative. We built many walks around Tadpole Spider Creek, which is the creek running down the back of our place at Warramoo, which we would have to inspect every Saturday on arrival. Recent photos I have seen remind me of the golf tournaments Ron arranged for the 3 of us to play. Ron won the inaugural competition and won the Bon Tas trophy. I later won the Pour le Bon trophy. You can see Ron was making good use of his French lessons. Ron's best friends at school were also very creative. Richard Bradshaw, AM, was interested in puppetry, and in fact that became his full-time job, delivering shows around the world in over 50 countries. Arthur Cantrell, AM, got involved in filmmaking, arty films rather than drama. Ron got into puppetry in a big way. He made glove puppets. He made a small theatre with pieces of 2x1 Oregon purloin from Dad's building site. He instructed his siblings to take part in the puppet shows, and eventually we were, with Richard Bradshaw and Mrs. Murray, putting on puppet shows in Clovelly on a Saturday afternoon. Not only were there glove puppets, but he developed the marionettes and shadow puppets. One particular show I remember we put on was the Nutcracker Suite. I don't know what the urchins of Clovelly thought of it, but I know the puppets were very good. I can't remember who was the phonograph player, whether the gramophone was clockwork or electric. Actually, I think it was probably a 10-inch LP, which means it must have been electric. I made one puppet, a tank made from masonite and kainite cut-offs from the building site, but Ron made the rest. Flutes, sugar plum fairy, a dancing Arab, flowers made from crepe paper and plastic tubing with lead feet. In my mind, it was quite a grand affair. Can I just, on this flutes, I think the flutes were terrific. They were pencils, which he painted brown. And with silver crow, I think the paint was, silver paint, he painted the keys. And on each flute They had legs, they were yellow, I remember still yellow, plastic tubing, hollow tubing with lead feet, and arms, which operated by the puppeteer at the top would move up and down. So da 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 da. And the waltz of the flowers was truly magnificent as we waltzed gaily around the stage. And the little sugar plum fairy, her legs were carved out of the 2x1 Oregon. Now, I'm not saying that her legs were that big, but by the time one whittled it down with a 1/4-inch chisel, they were nice, straight, dainty feet, legs. He was really so capable, so creative. Matter of fact, I saw one of the props which has unfortunately died, obviously a suit of armour, where you've got to be able to walk in the suit of armour. Back of it. And the mechanics of the heel, of the knee rather, are just, so good.
Magnificent. Clanking on.
Yeah. On one occasion, Jim Gunlack, our neighbour, gave Dad a Rhode Island red rooster in appreciation for services rendered. Dad did not have the heart for a rooster killing, so he organised to give it to a friend. However, Ron insisted that we keep it as a pet, a demand to which Dad eventually acceded. He had to buy another chook to honour his commitment to the friend. We named the rooster Kanga, derived from kangarooster. And Uncle brought us a hen, which we called Rietta. Henrietta. And their first offspring was a single chick, Chick-Ori. The chick's name was Ori. We spelled it A-W-R-I. Something was awry, but anyway, that's how it's got a name. 2 more chickens arrived in due course, and they were named Henry and Min, after Henry Crun's from the Goon Show. He next progressed to singing. Silence. Suddenly there comes a silence. Oh, sorry. He had a big voice then, but I don't think it was very good. Saturday afternoons he would sit at the piano and sing, loudly and not well. Mum would be in the bedroom, door shut. Dad and I would be outside in the street to protect our ears. I remember once our neighbour, Greg McNamara, also outside commenting on the noise. Nonsense, I far alone around the road stone. Hurry a door, God, hurry a door, hurry a door. Figaro, Figaro here, Figaro there, Figaro, Figaro, Figaro. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, that just came out natural. It was just the alliteration, but that's anyway, so there we go.
You sounded just like him there.
How he hated it later, when I would watch the bandstand in 6 o'clock rock. How he must have felt a failure when, after coercing me to buy out of my meagre pocket money Bastien und Bastien, which I believe was Mozart's first opera written when he was 11, eventually finished up buying over 20 Johnny O'Keefe LPs. The power he wielded over his siblings was incredible. I remember in the Ritz Theatre in Randwick watching the movie When Johnny Comes Marching Home. He told me only fools stamp their feet, so I didn't stamp mine, and my sister was brave enough to stamp hers along with several hundred others at the Saturday matinee. I remember when my family was listening to the Palace of Varieties, the 12-inch LP my father liked, and tapping my little feet to the boiled beef and cabbage, boiled beef and cabbage. Uncle Frank remarked how I appreciated the music. Ron told me you should listen to the music, not tap your feet.
Never altered.
I guess he won in the end. Because when I attended the SSO concerts at the Opera House, and someone in the audience sniffs or coughs, I feel like telling them to keep quiet. The audience must behave itself. When we
Tell them to keep quiet.
Who did, Ron?
Yes. He goes for Cinderella with me. I said, you're going to sit in another seat.
When we were clearing out Ron's house, my nephew David saw the 2 sets of headphones that Uncle Ron used to make David and his brother use when he forced them to listen to opera. How my mind raced back to my childhood when one of the ladies from Warrimoo Corral told me that Ron would not let them go home until he was satisfied that they'd got it right. A well-wisher came to a place at Valley Heights while I was there cleaning up last week. think a member of Mountain Opera Chorus. Can't remember his name, I'm sorry.
Colin?
Colin?
Yep.
Wasn't Colin Semler?
No.
No. Told me how hard a taskmaster Ron was. Can't you do better than that? What is wrong with your voice today? But the well-wisher said how Ron was such a good teacher, had so much patience, had so much knowledge, and he owed so much to Ron for improving his singing and persevering with him. It makes you feel good. As a brother, it makes you feel good. After graduating with a BA and a Dip Ed, Ron taught for a while, then in about 1964 went to Europe. He taught most of the time he was there, but was able to do much travelling around, not only for sightseeing and general tourist activities, but also for hearing and seeing his beloved operas. Less than a week before he died, attempting to make conversation, I asked him if he had seen The Ring at Bayreuth. Yes, he had, and Faust. He could not remember what days The Ring was on. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Still wanting to provide that detail that his excellent memory enabled him to keep in his head, but now less able to do so. Ron took hundreds of slides of his travels and documented them all. He made several Super 8, or maybe it was Standard 8 travellogues. I remember in particular one he made on his visit to Bedfordshire, which he rather risquely titled In and Out of Bed. When I mentioned before that we used to have to get home to listen to a radio show, and that was the show was taken from here.
Take it from here.
And I must mention Ron's love of English comedy. Stanley Laurel was English, so we can include Laurel and Hardy. But there was Arthur Askey, Ted Ray and Raise a Laugh, Murdoch and Horn with Over to You and Much Binding in the Marsh and Beyond Our Ken, Dick Bentley and Jimmy Edwards in Take It From Here, Seacombe, Sellers and Milligan and the highly esteemed Goon Show, Hancock on radio and TV, Morecambe and Wise, the Two Ronnies, Dad's Army, the list goes on. Absolutely goes on. I remember when we were watching the Muckanees Battle Horn, which starring Spike Milligan. Spike Milligan was the assistant copper. They were looking for clues, and Milligan said, "Look, sir, an impression of a hill." "No time for your impressions, Milligan. Let's look for clues." And that appealed to both of us. As I say from what I've said, you can probably see that Ron and I were not that close. But I did hold him in a lot of respect. I admired his creativity and his ability. I wished he had been more gregarious. I wished he'd had a wider range of interests. But we were brothers nevertheless, with some similar interests and many similar characteristics. I at least developed an interest in classical music. I've been to operas in Sydney, and I saw, with my wife Robin, Aida in the Arena in Verona. And I love saying that.
Real animals?
Oh, yes.
Real animals?
Yes.
Probably. Yes. Real animals? I'm sure.
I don't know.
I'm sure.
I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I was, because I was an opera student, and I actually asked if we could be extras, and we rode the elephants in Aida along the ramparts of the arena.
Yeah, Robin's here and she might remember, I'm not sure. But I go to symphony concerts, I go to the Thursday concerts at the Opera House, and I think that maybe Ron was broadening his horizon as death approached. Before he went into hospital at Westmead, I caught him watching South Sydney on TV. Well, probably he would have left the room if he'd been well enough, but to me it was a sign of progress. He converted. We were brothers. By the time he came back from overseas and resumed teaching, I had married and had a home of my own. Ron taught at some Sydney schools, including Narwee and Fairvale. He used to spend his weekends at Valley Heights in the house his mum and dad built, and he cared for mum until she died in the 1980s. When he got posted to Blackstone and then Springwood, he lived at Valley Heights all the time. I would only see him occasionally, several times a year when I visited my mother, and then sister and brother. Fortnightly at first, and then about every 3 months or so as my own days became busier with children and then grandchildren. Ron was usually at home when we visited, but sometimes he would be out. We would not know where. He would not say, and no one wanted to ask. I don't think he ever visited me, except for the wider Goldsmith family Boxing Day reunions. We rang each other on our respective birthdays. I remember one time 7 a.m. in a one-star hotel in Palermo in Sicily, dragging my luggage up a narrow staircase, being interrupted by a phone call from Ron, wishing me happy birthday. When he retired from teaching, he was clearly like a pea in gravy, as happy as Larry. Maybe like a hippopotamus in mud.
Oh, yes, one of his
Mud,
favourite songs.
mud,
Yes.
glorious mud.
And the sloth. The sloth.
Yeah. He was clearly like, yeah, I was happy there. He loved his garden, he worked very hard at it and knew every Latin name for every plant that ever grew in the mountains. Plant spotting to him was like bird watching to ornithologists. He had his big LP collection, his cassettes, his DVDs, and we knew he participated in music events. We, including a couple of cousins, saw him in the role of Mephistopheles one time. I knew that from time to time he got to sing Mud, Mud, Glorious Mud, nothing quite like it for cooling the blood, in front of an audience. But we did not really know or understand just how big his participation was. We did not know what a big network of friends he had. We did not know that most Thursday nights he had dinner here with Steen and Lyndall. They did not know Ron had a brother. Coming to know the other life that Ron led made me feel a lot happier. His last years had not been predominantly a life immersed almost alone in his garden and music and books and crosswords, but a full social and productive life. Death came to him so quickly, but he was always very stoic and uncomplaining. He knew that death was part of life and that there was no hereafter. None of us know how we were going to die, but I think Ron did it well. Quickly, calmly, without fuss, and made even more pleasant by that magnificent choir that sang for him on that last Thursday afternoon. I think that was a fitting farewell. In Leno to Philip and Phyllis Huffnance. I don't know the Huffnances are here today?
No.
Oh, okay.
She was
Well,
a glorious pianist.
Okay, I'm not going to ask for their permission, but this is a letter, an email that Ron wrote to Phyllis and Philip. Must be funny. Hi Phil, good morning Phil, good night Phil. Anyway, thank you for your email and your good wishes. Actually, I haven't been as devastated as one might expect, but have taken it quite calmly because I've known that melanomas can be like this, and when I stopped getting better, I suspected that something was wrong. Thanks very much for the offers, and I will keep in touch. He was usually honest. I don't think he was in that case. Anyway, that was Ron. Confident of his mortality, matter of fact, stoic to last, and the perfect gentleman to boot. Ron's nephew David, who lived next door to Ron for most of his formative years, was disappointed he was not able to meet with Ron's friends and had asked me to thank you for being his friends. He was very pleased to learn of Ron's other's life. That's about all. I've just got one more thing to do. Just quite off my own bat. I think Ron would have liked it anyway. I'm here today with my checkbook. I'm giving $2,500 to Warramoo Chorale, $2,500 to Penrith City whatever it is, City Choir, and I think because opera is more expensive, I'm going to give $5,000 to Mountain Opera. So thank you very much for coming, and I'm sorry if I didn't see the people winding me up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very good picture of the Ron we all knew.
Yes.
Didn't know her.
Did you know that he also used to work for that, what was that, Meals on Wheels? He
Yes,
used to take
yes,
that.
yes.
He was pretty good with that. Community transport, yes.
Now we have got several bottles out there and glasses for a toast. When do we want to have that after
After all the other speeches?
Well, I'd like a drink.